To stream. There we go. Okay, awesome. Hey, look at this. We are live. This is me doing this live. If people ever decide to join in, great, awesome, rock and roll. Welcome to the Inwit. My name is Robin, as the name on the screen suggests. Changing things up a little, I'm going to do this live because I can, and that could be fun. So we'll see how this goes. Right now, I'm a little bit delayed, but that's okay. Let's talk about Survivor. If anyone wants to chat, I guess you can chat. If anyone jumps in, cool. I'll see if I can pay attention to that too. Anywho, on with the show. Look, we have a pretty interesting 3 episodes to discuss. As per usual, have gone over it a little bit on Reality Pop. Our guest this week was none other than the only person in Australian Survivor history to be voted out with 2 idols, Simon from Brains vs. Brawn. So that was pretty fun. He seems to love the show, which is great, which we love. Anyway, let's move on with my stuff. We have the start of Sunday's episode. We get a tribe swap, which we didn't actually talk about in the other show. And this is a really nice moment to go in because I do think Mark is pretty strong and probably one of the winners, to be honest, or the winner. I think he's really, really just playing an amazing game. We're seeing some great stuff, and I don't think the actual people on the island are seeing how good he's actually playing, but we're getting it through the edit personally. So we have this nice little moment where he ends up without a buff, and he gets to choose which side he wants to go on. And his lovely wife Sam is on the other tribe, on the water tribe, and she gets pretty excited. And Mark chooses Bloods. Mark goes over the red tribe, leaves his wife, has the opportunity to pair up. And there's a little bit of talk about this. How'd you feel with Sam getting upset? And she kind of was a little upset at the start, but get over it. This is a straight up great move. The reason they didn't do well last time is because they became a power couple, and she ends up saying that. He's playing his own game, and that's how we got voted out last time. Power couple this, power couple that. So this is a really, really nice move by Mark, I think, when he actually decided, you know what, probably too much of a risk to go there with Sam. So he leaves Sam, which, amazing, really, really awesome, goes off to play his own game. Another just beautiful move, one of the many beautiful moves that we get across this 3 weeks from Mark. Very subtle, very simple. So he moves across, keeps that great rivalry going that the TV and the editors are loving, the Croc versus Mark rivalry, but Croc is unfortunately unable to deliver, and Mark seems to dominate him time and time again, which I was thinking about this. We have these elite sports players like a Croc who played sport for a living and obviously now retired, and going up against someone who was an SAS commando. The mentality of and that mental strength element is what really I think is separating, because Croc looks like an absolute unit, but definitely that ability that Mark has to just tune in and focus his mind a bit more. We see that time and time again because he keeps winning. So that cool little relationship stays around, but it's not always, doesn't live up to the hype that we get. So anyway, we move on. We get that stuff where we have the puzzle, like the little maze at the end, which sends red to tribal. And it looks pretty straightforward with a Mel vote. And she sits out quite a few challenges, seems to be the weakest link. And Sandra does question this at the start. Sandra goes, you would consider Mel weaker than me. I'm the oldest. I'm clearly the weakest, which is really great from Sandra to kind of put that out there. And they say yes. And then we get, I think it was Geordie, goes to change the plan and flip it on Sandra, which becomes a unanimous vote against Sandra. In the end, Sandra goes home, which day 16, that curse prevails. Three games in a row now. She is gone home on day 16. the problem I have here, well, I don't really I'm trying to work out what Sandra could do. You know, Sandra comes in, she flies in on the chopper. She's Sandra, for crying out loud. And even for those who don't know Survivor, any of the Australia, like a Chrissy who clearly doesn't know Survivor, and she's quite vocal about it. She comes in on a helicopter, and she's American. She has to have played the American season, and then JLP gives her the big old wind up. She's one of the two-time winners, the first two-time winner, I think he actually calls her. So that happens, and that's a really hard target to remove. I mean, Sandra in any game, really hard to remove that target. But in this case, she's being given literally a target on her back. She flies in with a target, and she does a really amazing job to keep the target off. Subtle moves, smart moves, keeping other people more of a threat than her, doing an amazing job to use her experience with very inexperienced players or players who actually really want to play with her, and get through quite a while. And then we get the mix up. And she did say on the Survivor, Australian Survivor Instagram, that the thing she wishes she could have done, when you do think of what you could have done, is stand somewhere different and pick a different envelope and hopefully get a blue buff and go on the Water Tribe, because she had some stronger ties there. But that's the same as going, if only I should have looked for an idol more. I should have looked for an idol. There has to have been a way for Sandra to play this situation, because you can only play the hand you're dealt, and she was dealt this hand. And for what was shown in the edit, she goes back to saying quite often, I need to be invisible, I need to be invisible. I mean, that's okay at the start, very early on, to try that, but you're Sandra, you can't be invisible. You have to take on a different role. And I don't know, I know some people probably would disagree with me that she did change her game. I mean, yes, she didn't sit out of challenges. She did evolve or adapt a little bit to Australian Survivor. But the core element of her game, as long as it isn't me, maybe that needed to change. Maybe at some point, where she started good, but when this flip happened, she stayed still very passive. As long as it's not me, it's Mel, great, awesome, done. I think this part here is probably crucial to what she could have done in the grand scheme of things. She may have, instead of sitting back, yeah, sure, she could have looked for an idol, she could have done all this stuff. I really think she probably put too much trust in Nina and what Nina would be able to, how Nina would be able to sway everybody else. What would she have done in that situation? Maybe she should have tried to take a little bit of control, tried to cause some confusion, tried to bring in the old Sugargate element. When you have such a big target like Sandra, and I think Sugargate was a great example, she needs to start finding a crack, finding people to put against each other. And when you have an easy vote, i.e. Mel, the easy vote always allows someone breathing space. The breathing space to make the move, to go, now's a great time. Everyone wants to go on Mel. Sandra's pretty comfortable. It's on Mel. Now's the best time to get Sandra out. I really think this moment would have been better if she tried to bring in the confusion, tried to, and without making it her, making her the one making that confusion. If she had the ability to start to pit some people against each other, hide the machete, hide the flint for a day or two, put it in someone else's bag who's feeling distrustworthy. I mean, this is easier on an American Survivor season because we do have strong villains. In the grand scheme of things, Australian Survivor, we don't really have real villains. I mean, the Khan is probably the closest thing we've got to a villain. this season. Golden God Dave, villain, Nick Idanza, and Dirty Harry are probably the only three you could probably try and say they're villains. We don't have real hard villains like a Russell Hance, you know. So that move being able to make a bit of chaos might not have worked, but I think that like she had to try something, and it obviously was that heartbreaking moment when she trusted, and then Nina has that beautiful ability to read the tribal and go, hang on a second, this ain't looking good for Mama Bear. I'm gonna have to cut her loose, and she votes off her mum in I think it was what it'd be, well, that was 9 on the tribe, so 8-1 vote. So when you have Geordie or Jesse, whoever, it wasn't Jesse, one of the J's, when Geordie, we'll say it's Geordie, when Geordie goes to make this move, he wants to claim this as his big scalp, his big resume builder. He loses a lot of cred for the resume building because everyone was all on board. The blind side doesn't really hit hard. Everyone who was there was part of it. Nina actually switched. I feel like Nina comes off a lot stronger with the ability to read the play, stay with the team, and now play her own game. Like, that's something she could easily start to say at the end, when if she makes it, if we're lucky enough to have Nina at the final tribal. That's a great pitch. You know, voting my mum off was tricky, but I saw where it was going and I had to do what was best for my game. Whereas the other one was like, I wanted to get rid of Sandra. Everyone wants to get rid of Sandra. Like, I'd probably be the only fool there that would want to take her to the end, because in my mind, who wants to let her win a third time? I mean, surely not. Surely they wouldn't give it to her a third time, especially if maybe you're able to carry her there. If you turn the, as long as it's not me, passive game style into her being more of a goat, maybe you've got a good chance of beating her. That's what I kind of thought. But most people would want to get rid of Sandra. So to say I got rid of Sandra, it was like everyone wanted that. It was a no-brainer. It wasn't a big strategic move. Whether you did it now or later in the future, it's not going to matter. It was always going to happen. So yeah, Nina comes out better. Nina comes out far better for me, and much stronger going forward. But you also have some really great adaptability by Mark here as well. As soon as he hears it, yeah, let's all, like, you know, he doesn't fight. He doesn't fight. He takes it on board, and you know, he seems to know where the numbers are going at the moment. Whatever conversations he's having there that we're not seeing, he understands where the numbers are going, and we see that coming up when we get to Amy. But the very next episode, we have the same sort of couple. We have KJ and Sophie having to make that decision. KJ has to do Nina in a little bit of a different circumstance. Everyone seems to want Sophie to go, whereas Sandra, you would really like to keep playing with Sandra, but she's too dangerous. She's too much of a threat. It's good to get rid of her. So there's a different thing here. Whereas Sophie, no one really wants to play with Sophie anymore. She's causing a lot of disharmony in the tribe and tribe life, especially in 50 odd days or however long it's going. That's really important. So we have that situation where you have KJ, who is playing a very, very mild game. The only reason we're seeing KJ in the edit purely is because of Sophie, the follow-on effects from Sophie. But otherwise, her style of game is just build relationships, get through, and she could go pretty far. And in a regular season, she might go further. She probably would go further than she might end up going for as far as she does in Blood vs. Water, because Sophie has just made her a bit more of a byproduct. She could have easily gone home if Sophie had an idol. She played an idol for herself and heads on out. Oh, speaking of idols, God, was I hoping that idol was played for Sandra. That would have been amazing. By Shay. If Shay played that idol for Sandra, I would have loved that. But it didn't happen. Anyway, moving on to Sophie and KJ. So if Sophie plays an idol, KJ goes home. KJ falls in a similar situation to Dave. Dave made it completely different, obviously, but Dave made a massive, massive blunder, blew up everything, blew up his whole game, but doesn't matter in the end. If he could get through the very next week, it was never that blow up, that mistake early on is not going to be an issue whatsoever. So what I'd like to see there is KJ be able to hopefully find the right side of numbers, get herself away from if an idol's played, you're the next to go. That's not a really nice spot to be in, and that's kind of where she's sitting. If they do go to try and get Khan out next week, which he's getting closer and closer to needing to go, I'd say. I feel like everyone's talking this thing up, or at least flushing that idol. They've got rid of Sophie. They've got rid of the people that were distracting the vote away from Khan. Khan plays an idol if he doesn't feel safe, and he should probably play it. KJ's probably still that split vote. So she needs to survive a little bit, or also be part of the orchestrating getting Khan out, getting her off the bottom. Then she can kind of have a little bit of a run like Dave. She becomes forgettable. We're maybe 2 weeks away from 6 episodes away from merge, 6 episodes away from merge, we'll say. I'd assume, I don't know when that comes in, but say if there's 2 weeks left to go, if she can avoid all those tribals, the game flips. We are starting to push towards, this is something Sandra did say, once merge comes, the alphas are gone, the big challenge competitors, your big boys, your Ben and Shay, who both prove themselves as strong competitors. Shay could go a little bit further because for some unknown reason we do target the men earlier, but those endurance challenges that do come up in the merge time do favor someone like Shay. She could go deep, so if Shay doesn't win, she loses immunity, she gets voted out. KJ doesn't really matter. She just can keep drifting by if she can get herself off the bottom. And I think to get herself off the bottom, she really has to start to be a bit more active. Her style of trying to build relationships, we get it, we hear it. But after this Sophie vote, everyone's aware of your game style. Everyone knows about it. And they don't really care. They're still wanting to get rid of you. So by whatever you're a lovely person, most likely. I mean, that's what they're probably thinking, but you're still on the bottom. So you can't sit there and keep building, because those relationships, I mean, we're close to 20 days in, if not 20 days in. Those relationships they're there. We're good. If you haven't built them to get you off the bottom now, you're not getting off the bottom through your relationship building. Sophie, unfortunately, has hindered that, which is why you may have lasted longer in a different game. But here, we need to make a quick flip, and adjust your game style. Understand that your relationships are there, but now we have to start to play. Now we have to bring the strategic side in. You're a likable person. Great. No one cares when it comes to $500,000 or $1 million if it's American Survivor. No one's going to say, oh, yeah, but I really like them. That's actually a reason to get rid of you later on down the track. But you're not that likable to get that way through. You're likable enough to not get any heat, which is a great amount of likable or likability. So she really needs to flip up that game. She needs to be almost the one who's driving the push for Khan. She needs to really step up and, I feel, make a bit of a play, make some strategic moves, get aggressive, stop sitting back, stop being so passive. And that might really help her following on to this. Then we have the next week. No, then we have Tuesday night's episode, which, before we talk about that vote, that challenge, that reward challenge for the fish and chips with that poll, well, the line JLP said, and Ben is furiously tugging his pole. I mean, this is quality. This is quality. These innuendos, I'm all for it. But what a fun challenge. What a fun, ridiculous challenge. You got to pull this pole long enough to box the other person off their stand. So silly. So silly. Loved it. Again, one of these things. Yes, I do want more puzzles challenges. I do want to see a bit of a balance in the challenges. But God, do I love the creativity the Australian challenge team just keep coming up with. That is, when I first saw that thing, I thought it was that the challenge that you got to push each other around, that one who's going to get to the other side. No, it was ridiculous. It was something out of a Japanese game show, and I loved it. So keep the creative challenges coming along, please, Channel 10, and Endemol Shine. Love it. But we get to so we have Red or Blood lose, go to Tribal the first week, Water go next, and then Blood are back at Tribal. And Mel is again an easy vote. And we have the majority wanting Mel, and then Amy wanting to break up the pair, wanting to break up the couples. So the cousins, that was the go. So the cousins were too powerful together. She wants to break them up. Now's a good time. It was potentially a good time. You need to know where everyone's sitting. There was a bit of a misread because the vote is simple. The vote is Mel. And when the vote is so simple, there's space to breathe. But you don't want to hyperventilate. And I think that's what Amy did. You know, Amy took the breath and just get, I got this. I can do this. We can make a big move. Get the resume, I mean, this resume building is just so overrated, in my opinion, on Australian Survivor. It is so overrated. You only need a couple of moves. You only need to be, I reckon you can pull off a win with one or two great moves, being on the right side of the numbers, maybe an individual immunity, and being relatively likable. If you look at Dave's game or Haley's game, I mean, Haley made some big mistakes. Haley got voted out from trying to make a big move. She got saved. She got lucky and went on to win. And when she came back, there was a lot of time where she was very passive. And if you've watched any of my other episodes, I was really wanting Haley to, even though I kind of was like, well, I guess she's already won anyway because of the betting thing, that my betting conspiracy theory. But I wanted her to start playing some moves. She started to really step back. Really, really step back. I think that's fine. I think, and same with Dave. Dave, from memory, made moves really early on because it was Dave and Tony had two just beautiful games. Dave came out strong really hard at the start, and then he really toned it back in the last half of the game and really tried to decrease that threat. Tony, for season 40, Winners at War, he went the opposite way. He started with keeping things nice and quiet, and then building to a really aggressive game at the end. You don't need to always be on the go. And this moment here, or if you're gonna strike, you got to really strike. You got to know you're going to get it. And she was just outplayed by some really, Mark shone in these subtle little clips. Amy says, we got to break up the couple. Mark goes, yeah, that's probably a good idea. I'm on board. While he's saying he's on board with everyone. Nice. And he's just calm and casual about the whole thing. He's not all in and getting excited and going over the top and I'm with you. We're here to the end. Pinky shake for life. This is the final three. He's not doing any of that stuff, which is bullshit. Those players that go, we're playing, this is it. Who's believing that? Who's believing that rubbish? So Mark plays this really nicely, really cool. I'm on. This sounds like a good plan. And it was a good plan. The concept of needing to get the numbers. It was a nine player vote. She had got 4 and needed the 5th, which the 5th ultimately was the undoing. The 5th was Shay. She didn't need Shay at all. And I know it sounds silly because it was 5 versus 4. All she needed to do is have her plan and then bring in that confusion. What if Mel plays an idol? Who are we splitting it on? We'll get the girls on Mel, the boys. Let's throw it on. Oh God, who? Let's throw it on Dave. Throw Dave under the bus. Keep it quiet if you can. You need who are we going to split? You need to have that split. So if she can manage to get two of those people to either know they've got to put a vote somewhere else for safety, or confuse them enough to know they're not really sure what's going on, and start to, because in confusion, that chaos reigns, and that's, if you've got that moment to breathe of making a big move when you have an easy moment, you're also, and also, I don't know. I think she could have done it with the 4 is all. I think she really could have pushed the other numbers away, and easily got through with just her, Dave, Nina, and Mark. That said, Nina's done the same thing as Mark. These two are playing a very good game. Nina, like she said, would rather wake up with the boys as shields. Amy isn't enough of a threat. Amy isn't enough of a shield. We don't have a strong women's alliance. We don't have. There's probably no steps further for Amy with that move. Not a bad attempt to put it out there. Probably wrong time. Misreading of the situation. Misreading of the numbers. Who's tight with who. Because it's one of those things, is like, information is key. And when you give up that information, you give it, more people know the plan falls to pieces. That one extra domino, being Shay, because you thought you needed the 5th, killed the plan. Killed it. Because Shay also needs more physical people around. Those physical people, those physical players are great shields for Shay, who is a physical player herself come merge. Wanting to make a big move isn't always the right thing. And I think that's what happened to Amy. She got afraid of this power of the two. I don't know why. Like, they will eventually break themselves up. It will come to a point where, yes, it is so obvious that they are too strong together. And then it becomes pretty easy for the majority to vote out a power couple. It becomes really easy to vote out a power couple. You just have to highlight it. You have to play a slow game with that. And I think Amy came in too quick. All she needed to say is like, Mel's gone. Let's keep it easy, because we had the flip last time. We had an easy vote with a chance to get Sandra out, and they take Sandra out. Give them time to breathe. Give them time to settle. Let everyone still stay focused, but allow people to run the game for a little bit. If you give Jules and Jordan, I think it might have been Jules and Jordan, I can't remember. If you give those two boys the key, they'll run with it and they'll enjoy it. But the more power they get, the more comfortable they get, and the more everyone else sees how powerful they are. And the only way the two of them are staying is if one wins an individual immunity and the other has an idol, or vice versa, or they both have idols. The likelihood gets pretty tricky. And when you can get the majority to start to see that, hang on a second, we don't want these people to go to the end, that's when you can break it up. You can even do it just before merge. Like, we get the inkling merges coming up. If we go out, we need to split those guys up, because they'll be strong together. Anyway, Amy shoots herself in the foot. It all comes down, and it's a pretty easy one. And you do see that other little beautiful moment from Mark. Mark strengthens Amy's resolve and belief that her plan is working by a little bit of a walk past. We've got the 4. We've got everyone. We've got our numbers. We're good. You, me, and the others. We're fine. Lovely work by Dave. By Mark. That's beautiful. Comes in, votes Amy very easily. I don't think he even had a question. He had already made up his mind. There was no umming and ahhing. I hope there was no umming and ahhing, because that is just showing how great he is playing. So I really hope to see him push it a little bit further. Next week we hear the 3 big players are going, and we see Mark, Khan, Chrissy, Croc, and Nina are put up on the 5. Once again, Australian Survivor, and their advertising slightly ruining it. 3 of these players will be going home. I would say it's safe to assume Croc would be the one of them. I don't consider Croc a big player. As I said in the last chat I did, I consider him a really great personality and an enjoyable presence, and I really enjoy him on this tribe. I like that he loves Survivor. I like that he's, I just don't think he is strategically on a solid page to be called a big player. He's just doing his best, and he's also not delivering in the challenges like you would expect. So I'd say Croc goes next week. I would want to assume they blindside Khan. I feel like that's an easy one, or at least they'll flush the idol, and you'll have some collateral damage from that, which might be KJ. But hard to see when they say 3 of these players are going to go. I just don't see Nina and Mark going. I just do not see them. So if Chrissy, I'm getting to that half an hour, just over half an hour part, and I'm now stopping. The inability to speak is happening quick and fast for me. So there's no reason to vote out Chrissy. But maybe she's just collateral damage from a Khan. I don't know. But I just don't see Mark and Nina going yet. I feel like those 2 are going to go head-to-head at the end and compete for the money. So I'd have to say, if the advertising is correct, we're going to see Croc, Chrissy, and Khan go, which is going to be a shame because I really like Chrissy. She's hilarious. I do enjoy Khan a lot. I think he's a great addition as well. Great strong player, possibly a bit too strong, but he's very big fan of him. A big fan of him. And Croc, take him or leave him. I enjoy him. He's definitely not a vanilla player. Definitely enjoyable for the team, or for the show, but inconsequential if he goes. I might wrap that up. I don't know if this is going to upload itself to YouTube, but I'll see what happens next. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope to be doing these live for good, and I'll maybe get better at this program. See you guys. And this is the awkward part where I look for end of broadcast and I tap end of broadcast right now. And no, now I have to double tap the end of broadcast. Now this is ending about maybe